tests by Monday. Hope being the operative word. But all right, we're gonna look at cultures, gender, and mating. So we have a lot of cool stuff. I'm actually really excited about this next set of stuff. So you're gonna see these two people over and over. Might as well get used to my good buddy David and my good buddy Venus. And what we're going to look at is ways in which cultures use the biological differences between males and females, or the believed biological differences between males and females, to group cultures. But today we're going to start with not culture, we're going to start with the ways that people use these biological differences to group species. So you remember Linnaeus, right? What is the deciding factor to make something a species? We teach biology in our high schools. What makes something a species? How do you know when we say that humans are all members of one species, but humans and cats are not?
Can mate and produce fertile offspring.
Can mate and produce fertile offspring. So this biological difference, this idea of, okay, these can mate together and produce a fertile offspring. They're part of one species. Humans and cats cannot, no matter which arrangement you do. And you can't get a male cat and a female human and vice versa. So one of the... I know, y'all can try. Yeah. That's a different class, though. PY372. One of the interesting things, though, and then culture, so cultures, we divide into species, and then cultures divide that species into male and female and make a big make a big to-do about this difference. And this is not new. This is not something that happened 100 years ago. We can go back to our good buddy, the Indo-Europeans, and we find that the earliest words that we can reconstruct for males and females have linked females to reproduction. It's the earliest words we have. So if you look at the Indo-European root word for woman, that is woman as opposed to just person and so forth, it is this word here, gwena, or gwini, which is related to the word which you actually are somewhat familiar with, gin. Gin. You're familiar with this word gin. Where?
Gender.
Genesis. Genesis, the beginning. That which causes the beginning. It comes from a Greek word, actually. And the Latin word was linked to the suckling of infants, falare. Now, so keep this in the back of your head. This isn't just some sort of interesting linguistic game that I love to play, although I love to play them. One of the things that we're going to see is that this linkage of females with reproduction is seen in many, 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 many cultures. What does this mean to say that females are linked to reproduction? Let's say you're a female and you say, I don't wish to have children. How do cultures judge that?
I don't like it.
It's going to depend on the culture, but if you're taking this big bird's eye view of our planet, and you say, or if you say, I'm female and I don't like children. It's primarily, you're going to get this primarily negative. Or even in other ways, let's say you're a female and you say, I would like to go into an occupation with a lot of radiation. And the radiation might harm my eggs. Guess what many cultures will say to you? No, they're going to say no. Actually, that is, for me, in many places, the official policy is, or here's another one, okay? Let's say you're 22 and you look ahead and you say, you know what, I don't have any maternal feelings. I don't think I ever want to have children. I'm going to go have my tubes tied today. Any guess on the likelihood of you being able to find a doctor to tie your tubes at 22?
They're not going to want to do it. They can get.
Yeah.
They're worried about getting sued.
They're worried about getting sued. They're worried because this linkage of female and reproduction is so tight, it's assumed that, oh, you're going to change your mind. And if we do it now, even if we get 400 forms and, whatever, they're still worried that later if you change your mind, they could lose a lawsuit. They can, but it's not 100%. So, you see this in other ways too, like if you look at surrogate parents, you can make a contract and go, this is, I'm just carrying this child for you. Even then, if the surrogate decides to keep the child, it's not 100% that she's going to lose the battle. Because this idea, she now has this reproductive connection. So it's really interesting. We still see this linkage in our culture. The word for male, interestingly, is a word "wiraro," or "wir." It's where we get our word "virtue." Interestingly enough, virtue is an interesting word historically. That virtue when you used to say that someone was virtuous, you were basically saying they were manly. It's like virile. If you think of the word virile, you go, "Oh, you're virile." You're saying you're manly. Virtue sort of had the same root. It's sort of interesting that virtue has really lost its masculine connotation. Now when someone says someone's virtuous, we almost mean only one thing. If I go, someone's virtuous.
Pious.
What?
Pious.
Pious? Whenever I hear people say virtuous, they always mean they haven't had sex. I don't know why. It's really weird. Maybe that's people I know.
I think of like someone's wholesome.
What?
I think of wholesome. Yeah.
Wholesome?
I think old
In what way?
I don't know.
Wholesome?
It's wholesome.
Like if you were to flesh out wholesome, they eat grains, they...
No, not like that. I guess they don't do anything bad. I don't know.
Okay, what's bad?
Of course, I don't know.
I've always seen the connotation of something
I
being
don't
like
know.
virtuous, like something
different for different
celestial, almost like virtuous.
I don't think people, it's an empirical question. I don't think when people say virtuous, they mean celestial.
Or some kind of celestial, like they equate you with some kind of celestial being that has extremely high morality.
In what way? So if I say virtuous, I think my sense of the word is that it's taken on almost a sexual, that virtuous means I am sexually something. I'm not the world authority on the word virtue, but that's not even the main point. But maybe a word for you. All right, so for what it's worth, the English word woman derives from an old English word, weithman, and was a reference to weaving man. That's actually what the word women comes from, weaving man. And it was a reference to the fact that in many, many cultures, the person who does the weaving are women. Actually, that is true in many, 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 many cultures. So if you ever wonder where the word woman came from, it's not from a... anyway. All right, so let's move forward. So what I want to do in this section, since the last third of the course, we're going to look at gender, we're also going to look at broader relationships. What we're going to do is we look at some ways that cultures regulate gender relationships. Now, in this, I'm going to mean not just relations between males and females, though our culture does this. I mean our culture also, or not just our culture, cultures regulate the relations among the same gender. So the culture is going to regulate the type of relationship that you and I can have, and as you and I for what it's worth. So one way to see this is we can look at the types of behaviors that cultures allow. So the types of behaviors that cultures allow different genders to do. And allow here can mean with a legal, right, a strong position. It could also be a folk way. It could also be a more, right? So you can see how when we say allow, the culture allows males to be childcare providers, but do you think it encourages that?
No.
Like if I say to you, I want to go work in daycare. So I don't know why I would ever say that. I'm kind of scared having you utter the phrase. Right? Our culture allows it, but you can certainly see how it doesn't encourage it. So we can also look at what things does it let us do, what things does it encourage. So, allows. So when you go, well, are there any behaviors that our culture or other cultures do not allow two males or two females to do? Marry, yeah, it's in our news this week. Right? So our culture says no matter how much I love a dude, I was going to pick someone in the class and random, you might be jealous. I can't marry them. So there are certain types of behaviors that get encouraged. There's assumptions that cultures make. So in our culture, one assumption is that females are more nurturing than males. Right? That is considered to be, whenever there's some sort of issue, the females are going to be the nurturing ones. Also, the type of behaviors that cultures prohibit is going to be, we can start seeing this. So what I want to, I need your clickers. So, don't have them. So I want to give you all a flavor of this so that we can show how this works. So we'll just start with a question. Should someone be able to marry, or if you don't want to marry, you can say enter a relationship, a romantic relationship with, I don't really care, anyone they want to. Now there's no right answer, just what do you think? A, yes, B, no. What? All right, let's go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't know how y'all are going to vote on this one. Let's see. Oh, man, this is awesome. Thank you, 2/3 of you. That is great because I just met the cutest 13-year-old. Awesome. You know, she's mature for her age. I picked that because you're absolutely right. That back in the day, that would not have been seen as creepy as we see it now. But our cultural norm has certainly, even in my lifetime, has shifted in this particular domain. My neighbors who live like 3 up from me, like he's 8 years older than his wife, and I'm like, y'all would be arrested now. They're in their 60s, so it's like, but back then it wasn't seen as creepy, right? Or even high school senior and high school freshman. I think that could probably get you in trouble now.
16 and 8.
Like 16 and 8, or see, if you're a freshman, that's 14. And you could be 19 if you just turned. I mean, that would get you, you could almost be thrown in jail for that. Now, even when I was in high school, I know I'm old, but what?
So it's still a little weird when high school seniors date high school freshmen.
You see, it's weird. I am not making this up. My junior, he was my junior history teacher, but this conversation took place when I was a senior, and there was some freshman, some girl, and he kept encouraging me to go out with her. He's like, she likes you and wants to. I'm like, I don't like her. She had hair that stuck up like this, and it bothered me. But so we see it as sort of. I will tell you that was not considered anything weird when I was in high school. It wasn't thought of as any kind of. So we now have shifted our views. To give you another example, in Spartan society, so you mentioned the Spartans before. Remember, they had the shields, this or on this, epitas, epitas. The standard thing was for the males to marry around the age of 30 to marry a 16-year-old. That was sort of standard. Everyone did that. All right, so okay, can I marry can I have a romantic involvement with my 13-year-old? Do we even need to vote on it? Probably not. All right, okay, you're not gonna let me. Okay, so, all right, so y'all say I can marry anyone I want to. Oh, I met the most awesome dude the other day. He's hot. We were dancing to some George Michael because he's old too. Should I be able to marry him? He's the same age. He is the same age as me. Y'all know this is an example, right? This is how rumors get started. He had a 13-year-old guy he wants to marry. So we already know that debate's going on in our culture, so we don't want to have that one in here. What about if I've met? My next one. What about someone of a different race? Should I be able to marry, we'll make it her. She's my age or roughly, or the phrase I use is age appropriate. Because that's how it gets said to me. Usually you need to date age appropriate. It's sad when that has to be said to me. What about that? Should I be able to marry her?
Yes.
Anyone want to guess what happened, what the case was? Let's just say 40 years ago in our culture. It was illegal. Not just like you couldn't do it. It had to go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court finally said, okay, you know, Virginia v. Loving. That was only, what, 1964? No, I want to say, no, 1970s. On that one. All right, so they're not giving me my 13-year-old, or maybe someone of the same sex. Okay, I tell you what. I have fallen deeply in love with 2 women. Can I marry both of them?
Not you.
Why not?
A is yes. B is no. A is yes, B is no. So 2 women, and for some reason they're both, you know, slightly off balance, and they want to marry me. I don't know why. You know, they got hit in the head as a child. Should I be able to do what?
She would be worried about you.
You should be worried about me. Yes, you should be worried about me. 3, 2, 1. Let's see what y'all think. Because y'all 2/3 said.
Whoa!
Awesome.